By the time it happened the third time, she already knew how it would end. Still, she went anyway. The mirror in front of her was quiet. Too quiet. It reflected a woman who looked perfect. Smooth skin, soft lips, beautiful eyes that carried something deeper than most people could understand. And her hair. Long, full, elegant. At least, that's what everyone else saw. Her name was Nora, and none of it was real. Not the hair, not the confidence, not even the smile she practiced carefully every time she stepped out. Because beneath that perfect wig was a truth she could not hide forever. A smooth, bare scalp, shiny under the light, a result of a sickness that had taken more than just her hair. It had taken her confidence, her peace, her ability to believe someone could truly love her. Nora reached up slowly. Her fingers touched the edge of the wig, just to make sure it was still in place. Still perfect. Still hiding everything. She took a deep breath. Just one more time, she whispered to herself. One more. The restaurant was beautiful. Soft golden lights. Quiet music. The smell of expensive food filling the air. People laughed softly around her. Couples sat close together. Everything felt warm, normal, happy. She sat at the table, waiting. Her hands rested on her lap. Still, controlled. But inside, her heart was beating too fast. Because she knew. She always knew. Hey, sorry I'm late. She looked up. And there he was. Tall, well-dressed, confident, smiling like he had already decided she was worth his time. His name was Daniel. They had met online, just like the others. He had called her beautiful, said he liked her energy, said he wanted something serious. You look even better in person, he said, sitting down. Nora forced a smile. Thank you. She had heard those words before. Too many times. They talked about simple things. Work, life, dreams. He laughed easily. He looked at her like he was interested, like he meant it, like he was different. And for a moment, just a small moment, she allowed herself to hope. Then came the part she could never avoid. The truth. Nora's fingers slowly tightened. Her breathing became steady. Prepared. This was always the hardest part. But she had promised herself something long ago. She would never build anything on a lie. Never. There's something I need to tell you, she said softly. Daniel leaned forward slightly. Okay. I'm listening. Nora didn't speak immediately. Instead, she reached up, slowly, gently, and held the edge of her wig. There was a brief silence. Just a second. But it felt longer. He watched her, confused, unaware. Then, she removed it. The air changed instantly. Her bare scalp was revealed under the soft restaurant lights. Clean, smooth, real. And just like that, everything shifted. Daniel's smile disappeared. Not slowly, not carefully. Instantly, like something had been turned off. What is that? He asked, his voice no longer warm. Nora swallowed. It's from an illness I had. I lost my hair. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then, he laughed. A short, sharp sound that cut deeper than any insult. You're serious right now? He said, leaning back. Nora didn't respond. She had seen this before. Felt this before. I thought you were normal, he continued. Why didn't you say this before? I wanted you to see me first, she replied quietly. See you, he scoffed. You mean lie to me? A few people nearby had started to notice. Eyes turning. Whispers beginning. Daniel stood up suddenly, shaking his head. This is crazy, he said loudly. I can't do this. And just like that, he walked away. Again. Nora sat there, still, silent, her wig resting on the table beside her, her truth exposed, her heart heavy. This was the third time, the third man, the third humiliation. Around her, people stared. Some whispered. Some laughed quietly. Others simply looked away. She reached for her wig slowly. Her hands didn't shake. Not anymore. She had learned how to control that. But inside, something was breaking. Again. She stood up, ready to leave, ready to go home. ready to carry the shame like she always did. But then, a voice spoke.
Calm, deep, cold.
Sit down. She froze. The entire restaurant went quiet, not because of her, but because of him. Nora turned slowly and saw the man everyone else had already noticed.
Tall.
Dressed in black, surrounded by men who didn't look like they joked, or smiled, or made mistakes. The kind of man people didn't stare at for too long. The kind of man people avoided. A mafia boss. His eyes were locked on Daniel, who had stopped walking, who was now slowly turning back. Fear replacing confidence. The man stepped forward.
Calm.
Controlled. Dangerous. You embarrassed her, he said quietly. Daniel swallowed. I didn't mean. Sit down, the man repeated. And this time, there was no argument. Nora stood there. Confused. Frozen. Heart racing for a completely different reason. Because for the first time, someone didn't walk away. And somehow, that scared her more than everything else. The restaurant was still. Not quiet in a normal way, but the kind of silence that comes when something important is about to happen. Nora stood frozen beside the table. Her wig was still in her hand. Her heart was still trying to recover from the humiliation she had just gone through. And now, everything had changed. Victor didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His presence alone was enough. Sit down, he said again calmly. This time, the words were not directed at Nora. They were for Daniel. Daniel hesitated. His confidence was gone. The same man who had just laughed loudly was now looking around nervously, as if searching for a way out. But there was none. The men standing behind Victor made sure of that. I didn't mean anything, Daniel said quickly, trying to sound brave. But his voice betrayed him. It shook. Victor took a slow step closer. Not aggressive. Not rushed. Just controlled. Sit, he repeated. Daniel obeyed.
Slowly. Carefully.
Like someone who understood that refusing was not an option. Nora watched everything.
Confused.
Uncomfortable. This was new. Very new. She wasn't used to this kind of attention. She wasn't used to anyone standing up for her. Victor turned his head slightly. His eyes moved from Daniel to Nora, then back again. You embarrassed her, he said. His tone was calm, but heavy. Daniel swallowed. I said I'm sorry. No, Victor interrupted quietly. You didn't. Silence. Victor leaned slightly forward. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to make his words impossible to ignore. You laughed, he continued. You raised your voice. You made sure everyone looked at her. Each sentence landed slowly, deliberately. Daniel's face dropped. I didn't think. That's the problem, Victor said. You didn't think. Nora's fingers tightened slightly around her wig. She didn't know where to look. At Daniel? At Victor? At the people watching? Apologize, Victor said. It wasn't a suggestion. Daniel hesitated for a second, then turned to Nora.
His voice was lower now.
Almost ashamed. I'm sorry, he said. Victor didn't move. Didn't react. Louder, he added calmly. Daniel took a breath. I'm sorry, he said again, this time louder. I shouldn't have said those things. The restaurant was silent. Everyone heard it. Nora stood there. Still.
Processing.
This had never happened before. Not once. Usually, they walked away. And she stayed behind. Alone. But not tonight. Victor straightened slightly. Then, without looking at Daniel again, he said, You can leave now. Daniel didn't wait. He stood up quickly and walked away without another word. Faster than before. Almost like he was escaping. And just like that, it was over. Nora let out a slow breath she didn't realize she had been holding. Her chest felt tight. Her thoughts were scattered. Victor turned toward her. His expression didn't change. Still calm. Still unreadable.
Sit, he said again.
This time, it was gentle. Nora hesitated. For a moment, she considered leaving. Running. Going back to what she knew. Silence. Loneliness. Safety. But something stopped her. Slowly, she sat down. Victor pulled out the chair across from her and took a seat. Like nothing unusual had happened. like this was just a normal evening. He picked up the menu, glanced at it briefly, then closed it. "You haven't eaten," he said. It wasn't a question. Nora shook her head slightly.
No.
He signaled to a waiter. Within seconds, the man appeared. Nervous. Careful. Victor gave a short order. Simple.
Clear.
No hesitation. The waiter nodded quickly and left. Nora watched him, still unsure, still trying to understand. "Why did you do that?" she asked finally. Her voice was soft, cautious. Victor looked at her, directly, but not in a way that made her uncomfortable. "You deserved better than that," he said. Nora blinked. The words felt strange, unfamiliar. She let out a small breath. "I'm used to it," she said quietly. Victor's expression didn't change. "That doesn't make it right." Silence settled between them again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. Nora looked down at the table, at her wig, resting beside her plate. "I didn't tell him before the date," she said, almost like she was explaining herself. Maybe he felt tricked. Victor leaned back slightly. His eyes remained on her.
Calm.
Focused.
"No," he said.
Nora looked up.
Confused.
"You didn't lie," Victor continued.
His voice was steady. Certain.
"You protected yourself." The words landed softly,
but deeply.
Something inside Nora shifted. Just a little. Her throat tightened. Not from pain, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time. Understanding. No one had ever said that to her before. Not once. She didn't respond immediately.
Didn't know how to.
So she simply sat there, quiet, still. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel small. She felt seen. The food arrived quietly. No noise. No unnecessary movement. The waiter placed the plates carefully on the table and left almost immediately, as if he did not want to stay any longer than necessary. Nora sat still. Her hands rested lightly on her lap. Her wig was still on the table beside her. She hadn't worn it back.
Not yet.
For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The moment felt strange. Not uncomfortable in a loud way, but quiet, careful, like both of them were thinking too much. "You should eat," Victor said calmly. Nora looked at the food, then back at him. "I'm not really hungry," she replied softly. Victor didn't argue. He simply picked up his fork and took a small bite. Like everything was normal. Like nothing unusual had happened. Nora watched him. There was something about the way he moved. Controlled. Measured. Nothing wasted. Slowly, she reached for her fork.
Took a small bite.
Then another. The silence stayed for a while. But this time, it didn't feel heavy. "You don't talk much," Victor said after a moment. Nora gave a small smile. "I could say the same about you." A brief pause. Then, for the first time, the corner of Victor's lips moved slightly. Not a full smile, but close enough. "I talk when necessary," he said. Nora nodded. "That sounds like someone who doesn't trust people easily." Victor looked at her. Not surprised. More like interested. "And you?" he asked. "Do you trust people easily?" Nora let out a quiet breath. Her eyes dropped to her plate. "I used to," she said. There was something in her voice. Something real. Victor didn't interrupt. He just listened. "I stopped," she added. Another silence. But this one carried meaning. Nora slowly looked up again. Her eyes met his. And this time, she didn't look away immediately. "You didn't answer my question," she said. "Why did you help me?" Victor leaned back slightly in his chair. His gaze didn't leave her. "Because I wanted to," he said simply. Nora frowned a little. That's not really an answer. Another small pause. Then, Victor spoke again. "People fear what they don't understand," he said.
His voice was calm.
Steady. Nora listened closely. "I don't." The words were simple, but there was something behind them. Something deeper. Something that made Nora feel like he wasn't just talking about her. She tilted her head slightly. "What does that mean?" Victor didn't answer immediately. His eyes shifted for a brief second. Toward the entrance.
Toward the people.
Then back to her. "It means I've seen worse," he said quietly. The way he said it wasn't normal. It wasn't casual. It carried weight. Nora felt it. even if she didn't fully understand it. She studied him for a moment. The way he sat, the way people avoided looking at him, the way the staff moved differently around him. "You're not just a regular man, are you?" she asked carefully. Victor didn't deny it. He didn't confirm it either. "I'm someone who deals with problems," he said. Nora didn't push further. She didn't need to. She understood enough. The conversation slowed again.
But now,
It felt easier. They spoke about simple things, small things, but somehow, it felt different.
deeper.
Nora found herself relaxing. Little by little, her shoulders softened. Her voice became steadier, but a part of her stayed alert, careful, because men didn't stay kind for long. She had learned that. After a while, Victor placed his fork down. "Finished. Where do you live?" he asked. Nora hesitated, just for a second. "Not far," she said. "I'll take you home," he replied. It wasn't forceful, but it wasn't exactly a question either. Nora's fingers tightened slightly. "No, it's okay," she said quickly. "I can go myself." Victor looked at her,
Calm.
unmoved. "I know you can," he said. A pause. "But I'll take you anyway." Something about the way he said it wasn't controlling. It wasn't threatening. It felt
Certain.
Nora studied him, trying to understand, trying to decide. Every instinct she had told her to be careful, to walk away, to go back to what she knew. But another part of her, a quieter part, said something else. He didn't laugh. He didn't leave. He didn't look at her like she was less. Slowly, she nodded. "Okay," she said softly. And just like that, something shifted again. Because Nora didn't realize it yet, but this simple decision was about to change everything. The night air felt cooler when they stepped outside. Nora wrapped her arms lightly around herself, not because she was cold, but because something inside her felt uncertain.
Different.
The restaurant doors opened behind them, and immediately, everything changed. A black car was already waiting. Not just any car. It was long,
Shiny.
expensive in a way that didn't need to prove anything. Two men stood beside it, dressed in dark suits. Straight posture, sharp eyes. The kind of men who didn't smile. The kind of men who watched everything. Nora slowed down, just a little. She noticed how they reacted the moment Victor stepped forward. They didn't greet him. They didn't speak. They simply moved. One opened the car door. The other stepped slightly aside, scanning the surroundings. Like they had done this 1,000 times. Nora's heart beat a little faster. This wasn't normal. Not even close. Victor didn't look at them, didn't acknowledge them. He walked as if everything around him already understood its place. He stopped beside the open door, then looked at Nora. "After you," he said calmly. Nora hesitated. Her eyes moved from the car to the men, then back to Victor. "Are they with you?" she asked quietly. "Yes." Just one word. Simple. Clear. No explanation. Nora swallowed, then slowly stepped forward and got into the car. The inside was even more intimidating. Soft leather seats, dim lighting, everything clean,
Perfect.
controlled. She sat carefully, her hands resting on her lap, trying not to touch anything unnecessarily. Victor entered after her. The door closed, and just like that, the outside world disappeared. The car began to move.
Smooth. Silent.
For a moment, neither of them spoke. Nora looked out the window. The city lights passed by quickly, blurring into lines of gold and white. But her mind wasn't on the city. It was on him, on the way people looked at him, or avoided looking at him, on the way those men moved for him without a word, on the way everything felt controlled. "You're not just rich," she said suddenly. Victor turned his head slightly, not surprised. "No," he replied. Nora let out a small breath. "I can tell." Silence again. But this silence carried more weight. "What do you do?" she asked carefully. Victor didn't answer immediately. His eyes moved briefly to the front of the car, then back to her. "I handle things," he said. Nora frowned slightly. That doesn't explain anything. It's not meant to, Victor replied calmly. That answer didn't comfort her. If anything, it made her more uneasy. Nora shifted slightly in her seat. Her fingers tightened together. She wasn't scared. Not exactly. But she was aware. Very aware. This was not her world. The car turned into a quieter road. Less crowded. More private. Nora noticed the way another car followed behind them. At a distance. But close enough. Her chest tightened slightly. You always move like this? She asked. Yes. Again.
Simple.
No emotion. Nora looked down for a moment. Then back up. That means you have enemies, she said. Victor didn't deny it. Yes. The honesty surprised her. Most people would avoid saying that. But not him. Nora's thoughts began to race. Why did she agree to this? Why was she sitting here? Why did she feel like she had stepped into something much bigger than she understood? Her breathing slowed.
Carefully.
Controlled. She turned slightly toward the door. Not to open it. Just aware of it. Victor noticed. Of course he did. He always noticed. You're thinking too much, he said calmly. Nora gave a small, nervous smile. Maybe. Victor leaned back, slightly. His gaze steady. You're safe, he said. The words were simple, but they didn't land simply. Nora looked at him, studying his face, trying to understand. Safe? In this car? With him? Or from him? Victor's expression didn't change. Then he added, You're safer with me than without me. The words settled heavily in the air. Nora felt it instantly. Her heart skipped slightly. She didn't know how to take it. Was it reassurance? Or a warning? Her mind searched for meaning, for intention, for something clear. But there was none. Just his calm voice, his steady eyes, his unreadable presence. Nora turned her gaze back to the window. The city lights reflected faintly on the glass. Her reflection stared back at her. Still beautiful, still composed, still hiding more than anyone could see. But inside, everything felt different now. Because for the first time, she wasn't just dealing with rejection. She was stepping into something unknown, something powerful, something dangerous. And she didn't know yet if she was walking into protection or into a world she might not be able to escape. The car moved quietly through the night. No music, no distractions, just the soft sound of the engine and the city passing by outside. Nora sat still, her hands folded tightly together on her lap, her eyes fixed on the window. But she wasn't really looking at anything. Her mind was somewhere else. Far away. Victor didn't speak. He didn't rush her. He didn't try to fill the silence. He simply waited. And somehow, that made it harder. Because Nora was used to people talking over her, interrupting her, judging her. But not this. This quiet attention felt different. After a long moment, she spoke. I didn't always look like this, she said softly. Her voice was steady, but there was something underneath it. Something fragile. Victor turned his head slightly toward her. But he didn't interrupt. Nora swallowed. I used to have hair, she continued. A lot of it. A small, distant smile touched her lips. Like a memory she didn't visit often. It was thick, long. Everyone used to compliment it. Her fingers slowly moved, almost unconsciously, touching the edge of her bare scalp. Then I got sick. The words came out quietly. Very sick. She paused,
Took a small breath.
There were treatments, hospital visits, drugs, things I didn't even understand at the time. Her voice didn't shake, but it felt heavier now. And then one day it just started falling out. Silence. I woke up and saw strands of hair on my pillow, she added. At first, I thought it was nothing. Another pause. But it didn't stop. Her fingers tightened slightly. It kept falling until there was almost nothing left. The car felt smaller now, like her words were filling all the space. I remember standing in front of the mirror, she said, looking at myself. Her voice dropped even lower, and not recognizing who I was anymore. Victor didn't move.
Didn't speak.
He just listened. No reaction. No pity. Just presence. Nora let out a slow breath. The sickness went away. she continued. I got better. A bitter smile appeared briefly. But this didn't. Her hand rested lightly on her head. This stayed. Silence followed. And people, she added. They changed too. Her eyes moved away from the window, now looking somewhere ahead, but not at Victor. They look at you differently, she said. Like something is wrong with you. Her voice remained calm, but her words carried years of pain. Men especially. A small pause. They see the wig first, she continued. They see what they like. Another pause. Then I show them the truth. Her lips pressed together slightly. And everything changes. The memories were clear. Too clear. They laugh, she said. They get uncomfortable. They walk away. Her voice softened even more. Some don't even try to hide it. The car stayed quiet. No interruption. No judgment. Nora took a deep breath. I thought maybe if I was honest early, it would be different. She shook her head slightly. It never is. Another silence. This time, heavier. Nora blinked slowly. Her eyes slightly wet now. But she refused to let anything fall. She had cried enough. A long time ago. I'm used to it, she said finally. Victor spoke. They didn't reject you. Nora looked at him.
Surprised.
His expression was calm.
Steady. They exposed themselves.
The words were simple, but they hit differently. Nora's breath caught slightly. She stared at him, trying to understand. They showed you who they are, Victor continued. Not who you are. Silence. Something inside her shifted again. Her throat tightened. Her chest felt heavy. Not from pain. From something else. Relief. Validation. Something she had never truly received before. Her eyes burned slightly, but she held it in. She wouldn't cry. Not here.
Not now.
But for the first time, she felt like someone understood. Not her beauty. Not her appearance. Her. And, in that quiet moment, without touch, without promises, something real formed between them. Something neither of them spoke about, but both of them felt. The car slowed to a stop. Nora looked out the window. This is my street, she said softly. It was quiet. Simple. Nothing like the world Victor lived in. No guards. No luxury. Just normal houses, dim streetlights, and silence. The car door opened. One of the men stepped out first, scanning the area quickly before giving a small nod. Nora felt it again. That strange feeling. Like she had stepped into something she didn't fully understand. She turned to Victor.
Thank you, she said.
Her voice was sincere. Victor nodded once. You'll go inside, he said. Nora blinked slightly. I live here, she replied. I know, he said calmly. There was something in his tone. Not forceful, but careful. Nora stepped out of the car. The night air felt different now. Heavier. She adjusted her clothes slightly, her wig still in her hand. Then she started walking toward her building. But halfway there, she paused. Something didn't feel right. She turned slightly, looked behind her. The street was empty, quiet, but her chest tightened. It felt like someone was watching. She shook it off. Maybe she was overthinking. Maybe everything that happened tonight was just getting to her. She continued walking, faster this time. Behind her, the car didn't leave immediately. Victor watched her, his expression unreadable. Stay, he said quietly to the driver. Across the street, a man stood in the shadows. He had been there for a while, long before the car arrived. His eyes were fixed on Nora, and now, on Victor. He pulled out his phone slowly. Boss, he said under his breath. I think we have something. A pause. She's with him. Another pause. No, I don't know who she is. His eyes narrowed slightly. But she must be important. Inside the building, Nora closed the door behind her. She leaned against it,
took a deep breath.
Everything felt too fast. Too much. The dinner. The man.
Victor. The car.
The guards. She walked toward the window,
slowly,
and looked outside. The black car was still there, waiting, watching. Her heart beat faster. Why was he still there? A strange feeling crept in again, stronger this time. Not fear, but awareness. Something was off. She moved slightly to the side of the window, trying not to be fully seen. And that's when she noticed it. Another figure. Across the street. Standing still. Too still. Watching the car. Watching everything. Nora's breath caught. Her instinct screamed at her. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Her phone buzzed suddenly. She jumped slightly, then quickly picked it up. Unknown number. Her fingers hesitated. Then, she answered. Hello. Silence. Then, a voice.
Low. Calm.
You should stay inside. Nora froze. Who is this? She asked. You were seen, the voice continued. Ignoring her question. Her heart dropped. Seen by who? She whispered. A pause. People you don't want to know, the voice replied.
Click.
The call ended. Nora stood there. Frozen. Her mind raced.
Seen?
By who?
Why?
Her eyes slowly moved back to the window. The man across the street was gone. Completely gone. Like he was never there. The black car outside finally began to move. Driving away. Leaving her alone. But it didn't feel like she was alone anymore. It felt like something had followed her home. Nora stepped back slowly. Her chest rising and falling faster now. This was not her normal life. This was not just about dates. Or rejection. Or embarrassment. This was something else. Something bigger. Something dangerous. And then, the truth hit her. Not slowly.
Not gently.
All at once. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. This was because of him. Because of Victor. Her fingers tightened around her phone. Her breathing became shallow. Because now she understood something clearly. Being close to Victor was not just different. It was dangerous. The night felt wrong. Nora could feel it the moment she woke up. It was too quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The dangerous kind. She sat up slowly in her bed. Her heart already beating faster than normal. Something was off. She looked around her room. Everything was where it should be. Nothing looked out of place. But still, the feeling didn't leave. She stood up, walked toward the window.
Carefully.
The street outside was empty. No cars. No people. Too empty. Her fingers tightened slightly. She remembered the call from the night before. You were seen. Her chest tightened. Maybe she should call someone. But who? She didn't have anyone. Except, her phone buzzed suddenly. She froze. Then slowly picked it up. Unknown number. Again. Her breath slowed. She answered. Hello. This time, there was no silence. A voice spoke immediately.
Cold.
Flat. You should not have gone out with him. Nora's heart dropped. Who is this? She asked quickly. A small laugh came from the other end. That doesn't matter. Her fingers tightened around the phone. What do you want? She asked. A pause. Then, you. Before she could react, the lights went off. Everything went dark. Nora gasped. Her phone slipped slightly in her hand. Then, she heard it.
A sound.
Behind her. She turned quickly. But it was too late. A hand covered her mouth. Strong. Unforgiving. Another arm wrapped around her. She struggled.
Kicked.
Tried to scream. But the grip was too tight. Stay still. A voice whispered close to her ear. Her heart raced wildly.
Fear.
Real fear. Not the kind she felt on dates. Not the kind from embarrassment. This was different. This was danger. Her body weakened.
Slowly.
Something sharp hit her neck. A sting. Then, everything faded. Darkness. Complete darkness. Across the city, Victor sat in a quiet room. Still.
Calm.
A glass of drink untouched in front of him. One of his men stepped in.
Fast.
But controlled. She's gone. Silence. Victor didn't react immediately. Explain, he said. His voice was low.
Steady.
Her apartment, the man continued. No signs of struggle outside.
Clean job.
They knew what they were doing. Another pause. They took her. The room went colder. Not because of the air. Because of Victor. He leaned back slowly. His eyes dark. Focused. Who? He asked. We're still tracing, the man replied. But whoever it is, they were watching her. Victor's fingers tapped lightly on the table.
Once. Twice.
Thinking. Always thinking. Then, he stopped. They think she matters, Victor said quietly. The man nodded. Yes. Another silence. But this one was dangerous. Because Victor wasn't angry. Not visibly. And that was worse. Much worse. He stood up slowly. No rush. No panic. Just certainty. They made a mistake, he said. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Because everyone in the room felt it. Understood it. They touched the wrong woman. The words were calm. But final.
Deadly.
The man standing in front of him swallowed slightly. What are your orders? He asked. Victor's eyes lifted. Cold. Sharp.
Find them, he said.
A pause. Then, break them. Silence filled the room again. Because everyone knew what that meant. This was no longer about curiosity. No longer about observation. No longer about watching. This was war. And Victor never lost wars. Darkness. That was the first thing Nora felt. Not silence. Not peace. Just darkness. Her head ached. Her body felt heavy. Slowly, she opened her eyes. The room was unfamiliar. Cold. Empty. A single dim light hung from above, casting shadows across the walls. Her hands were tied. Panic rose instantly in her chest. She tried to move. Struggled. But it was useless. Stay still, a voice said from the corner. Nora froze. Her breathing became fast. A man stepped forward. Not alone. 2 others stood behind him. They watched her like she was something valuable. So this is her, the man said, studying her face. Nora swallowed. Who are you? She asked. The man ignored her question. You must be important, he continued. Important enough for him. Her heart dropped. Victor. They took her because of Victor. I don't know what you're talking about, she said quickly. The man laughed softly. That's what they all say. He walked closer. But we'll find out. Nora's chest tightened. Fear returned. Real fear. But something was different this time. She wasn't just afraid for herself. She was afraid of what this meant. Of the world she had stepped into. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed. A crash. Then, silence. The men turned sharply. What was that? One of them said. Another sound. Closer this time. Heavy footsteps. Then, the door burst open. Everything changed. Men rushed in.
Fast. Precise.
Chaos.
Shouting.
Movement. But in the middle of it, there was control. Calculated.
Cold.
And then, she saw him. Victor. He walked in slowly. Like nothing around him mattered. Not the noise. Not the men falling. Not the chaos. His eyes were locked on one thing. Her. Nora's breath caught. Relief.
Shock.
Disbelief. All at once. The man in front of her stepped back. Fear clear on his face now. You, he started. But he didn't finish. Because Victor didn't give him the chance. Everything that followed was fast. Brutal. Controlled. No wasted movement. No hesitation. Just precision. The same calm man from the restaurant
Was gone.
This version of Victor was different. Dangerous.
Feared.
And unstoppable. Within moments, it was over. The room fell silent again. The men were down. No one stood in his way. Victor stepped closer. His expression softened slightly. Just slightly. Nora, he said. Her name sounded different coming from him.
Real.
He cut the ropes around her wrists. Carefully. This time, he didn't rush. Are you hurt? He asked. She shook her head slowly. I'm okay, she whispered. Her voice trembled slightly. Not from fear. From everything she had just seen. She looked at him. Really looked at him. Now she understood. This was his world. Not the calm version. Not the quiet version.
This. Power.
Danger.
Fear.
And yet, he was the same man who sat across from her. Who listened. Who didn't laugh. Who didn't walk away. Her eyes dropped slowly. To the wig beside her. Thrown to the floor during the struggle. For a moment, she hesitated. Old habits. Old fears. Then, she reached down, picked it up, and paused. Her hands didn't shake. Her heart was steady. Slowly, she looked back at Victor. Then, she dropped the wig, let it fall. No hiding, no pretending, just her. Victor watched her, his eyes calm,
Steady.
not surprised, not uncomfortable, just present. Nora took a small step forward, and for the first time, she didn't feel ashamed. She didn't feel small. She didn't feel like she needed to hide, because he was still looking at her the same way, like nothing had changed, like she was still enough. Victor stepped closer, not too close, just enough. His voice was quiet. You don't need to hide from me. A small pause. Then, or the world anymore. The words settled gently, and this time, Nora didn't hold anything back. Not fear, not truth, not herself, because for the first time, someone had seen everything.
And stayed.